Welcome to this explainer. Look, if I asked you to picture a vegetable garden, you'd probably think of the basics, right? Carrots, potatoes, maybe some broccoli. But what if I told you that growing right here in American soil, there's a root that smells exactly like peanut butter? Or vines that are absolutely bursting with tiny little cucamelons that give you this bright citrus tang? It's true. The USA is secretly home to some of the most bizarre, fascinating edible plants on the planet. And today, we're going to dig in and explore 10 of the absolute strangest.
So, let me ask you this. Have you ever eaten an alien egg? Okay, obviously I mean a vegetable that just looks like one, but actually tastes like a cucumber with a splash of lime. By the end of this, we are going to completely shatter your perception of what a normal vegetable is. We're stepping way out of the standard produce aisle and into a wild sensory world of pale green UFOs, pungent wild leeks, and forgotten heirloom survival crops. Let's take a quick look at our journey today. First up, treasures beneath the soil. Second, alien stems and heirloom squashes. Third, wild, foraged, and fierce. And finally, vines and resilient greens.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Treasures Beneath the Soil.
For our very first stop, we're heading deep underground to look at some truly incredible native roots. Now, the Jerusalem artichoke is a vegetable with, honestly, a deeply confusing name. Despite what it's called, it has absolutely nothing to do with Jerusalem, and guess what? It isn't even an artichoke. Actually, this knobby, kind of ginger-looking root is a native North American sunflower. And these aren't just botanical oddities. These are the very crops that sustained indigenous tribes and early American settlers through some incredibly brutal winters. Above ground, the plant grows into these tall, yellow-flowered giants, but underground, it hides this tangled network of tubers. They thrive in rocky New England soils and all across the Midwest. And if you eat them raw, they offer this deliciously sweet, nutty flavor that's actually surprisingly similar to a water chestnut.
But, well, there is a catch here, and it's quite a funny one. These roots are loaded with a special fiber called inulin. Now, inulin is fantastic because it's completely diabetic-friendly. It doesn't digest like your typical starches. However, instead of breaking down quickly, it ferments in your gut, and this exact trait makes them absolutely notorious for causing spectacular gas. It's so well known, in fact, that chefs affectionately refer to them as fartichokes. But hey, don't let that deter you. When you cook them, especially roasted with some brown butter or blended up, they transform completely into these incredibly velvety, creamy soups.
Now let's move even deeper into the forest floor. 3 times. Keep that number in mind because that is the nutritional secret weapon of the next plant we're exploring. It packs nearly triple the protein of a regular potato.
Meet the groundnut. You might also hear it called the Indian potato or hopness. The historical and nutritional weight this plant carries is just immense. It's a native forest legume that was actively cultivated by the Wampanoag, Cherokee, and Iroquois tribes. Think about this. When the Pilgrims first arrived at Plymouth, it was literally these protein-packed groundnuts that saved them from starvation. It's a vine that grows sort of like a wild bean, producing these underground tubers that look almost like beads on a necklace. And the taste? It's like a perfect cross between a hearty potato and a creamy chestnut. Today, because it thrives in poor soil and fixes its own nitrogen, which basically means it naturally fertilizes the earth right around it, it is gaining massive attention in modern permaculture. It's an absolute game changer for creating self-sufficient, sustainable ecosystems.
Moving right along to Section 2, Alien Stems and Heirloom Squashes.
Transitioning from those hidden forest roots, we find kohlrabi. And guys, this thing literally looks like a pale green UFO hovering just above the dirt. It's not a root, it's not a leaf, and it's not a fruit. It is an edible, swollen stem from the cabbage family. German immigrants brought this little oddity to America back in the 1800s, and it found a perfect home in the cool climates of the Midwest, especially up in Minnesota and Wisconsin. When you cut through that tough alien-like exterior, the crisp flesh inside is amazing. It tastes remarkably like a broccoli stem crossed with a sweet apple. For sure, it is an absolute staple for crunchy Midwestern slaws and fritters. Now, contrasting with the geometric oddity of kohlrabi, we have the mighty Cushaw squash. This is a huge, curved squash with these distinctive green and white stripes, originally from Mesoamerica. It became an essential, absolute survival crop in the American South, mostly because of its rugged resistance to both pests and intense heat. And it's incredibly versatile. In fact, Southern bakers will actually insist that its golden, mildly sweet flesh makes a far superior pie compared to your ordinary pumpkin.
You can toss it into rich soups, comforting casseroles, and because they can grow up to 20 pounds and store all winter long without any refrigeration, farmers even heavily relied on them as winter livestock feed.
Which brings us to Section 3, Wild, Foraged, and Fierce.
Heading deep into the misty Appalachian hollows, we uncover a wild vegetable so powerful, so pungent, that it is literally known to close schools when children brought them for lunch. No joke. We are talking about ramps. They might look like dainty little scallions, but let me tell you, these Appalachian wild leeks pack a garlicky onion punch that will clear your sinuses and completely take over an entire room. They are a massive springtime delicacy, often celebrated in huge community ramp feeds. But because they are so highly sought after by chefs today and grow very, very slowly, foragers have to be incredibly mindful. It's absolutely crucial not to over-harvest them just to ensure they keep returning year after year.
If you compare ramps to other wild edibles, the contrast is really striking. While ramps offer that bold, garlicky punch native to Appalachia, the nodding onion is much more delicate. It almost looks like a wildflower with these little drooping pink bells, and it offers a really mild garlicky flavor. You can actually eat the entire plant, flowers and all, and it completely thrives in the West and Midwest prairies. And then you have wild mustard. This one is just unapologetic. It grows like a weed nationwide, famously dotting California's wine country with these vibrant golden flowers. Its leaves have a spicy, peppery bite that only intensifies as the plant matures. So you've got all three: completely wild, completely edible, and wildly different in personality.
And finally, Section 4, Vines and Resilient Greens. You know, American agriculture boasts some incredible climatic diversity. Take the chayote, for example. It's a heat-loving, aggressive climbing vine that absolutely thrives in the humid, sticky summers of the South. Now contrast that entirely with cornsalad. This is a frost-loving, ground-hugging plant that thrives in freezing cold winter soil. So you have one that conquers the humid canopy in the blazing summer, while the other quietly hugs the freezing earth in the dead of winter. Let's look a little closer at both of these.
So the chayote, known in Cajun cooking as the merleton, it's this pale green, pear-shaped, wrinkled gourd that grows wild right across Texas, Louisiana, and Florida, and it is a quiet powerhouse. Down in New Orleans, it's actually a Thanksgiving tradition to hollow these out and stuff them with spicy shrimp. But what makes it truly amazing for growers is that a single plant can yield upwards of 50 fruits per season. 50, and it's practically a zero-waste plant. The fruit, the seeds, the shoots, the leaves, and yep, even the roots are entirely edible. The flavor? Just imagine a wonderfully refreshing cross between zucchini and jacama.
Swinging all the way back to the cold, we have corn salad, or mache. Now, despite the name, it has absolutely nothing to do with corn. It's a buttery, super delicate heirloom green. While other crops just wither and die at the very first frost, corn salad actually nestles into the cold soil and easily survives freezing winters. It was heavily relied upon by colonial pioneers when literally everything else perished. Its velvety leaves, which practically melt in your mouth, actually made it a favorite among European aristocracy. It was even famously grown by Thomas Jefferson at Monticello, specifically for its incredible winter reliability.
We're going to bring our tour to a fun close with our 10th vegetable, mouse melons. You might also know them as cucamelons. These are tiny grape-sized fruits originally from Central America that look exactly like tiny baby watermelons, but they're much closer to cucumbers in taste. They grow by the hundreds on highly pest-resistant vines in warm regions like California and Texas, and they are just incredibly fun to eat. You can pop them raw for this surprising, citrusy cucumber crunch. You can jar them up into perfectly bite-sized, tangy pickles. Or, my personal favorite, you can muddle them right in the zesty summer cocktails. They are the absolute perfect, fun finale to America's strange vegetable landscape.
Well, from underground roots that smell like peanut butter to fierce wild mustard and tiny watermelon lookalikes, we have covered a whole lot of ground today. Our agricultural diversity is just absolutely incredible when you really look closely at it. So I have to ask, which of these weird vegetables would you be most willing to try or maybe even grow yourself? I challenge you to look beyond the standard produce aisle, get curious about what's out there, and until next time, keep exploring.